Hello and welcome to Mente de Madre Leona. Thank you so much for joining me here today. My name is Christina. Today we are going to be talking about my experience with the Ketovore diet and how I've had to pivot just a little bit from that diet to see some more gains as far as muscle mass in the gym. Last week we talked about the carnivore diet and kind of how I got there from being paleo, vegetarian, and then vegan, and how that rolled into being keto and then to carnivore. And so at this moment I've just come off of Ketovore because I really need to get some more carbs, honestly, into my diet without turning to sugar or crazy other supplements. So this is our 7th episode of season 2. Super excited about that. And again, season 2 is all about simple strength and talking about health, wellness, and fitness tips that I have found to be beneficial in my life or not so beneficial in my life. And my hope is in sharing these things with you that maybe you felt like you had experienced something on your own, and maybe I give you a little bit of encouragement that you're not alone on that, or maybe it's totally not applicable to you, but I hope that you find some motivation to find your health and wellness, because when you've got your health mentally, physically, and spiritually, and your strength, you can pursue your passions with everything that you've got. But if you've got to take care of some sort of health issue or wellness issue in your life, you really need to focus on doing those things before you can really go chasing after those dreams and goals. Because if you reach a goal that's so awesome, but you've got this lingering health issue that you could have been taking care of along the way by changing some of the things that you're doing in your daily life and turning those into habits, why not? Why not change all of that up front, so that way when you get to that end goal, you've got your health, your wellness, and your fitness, all of those good things together, because, without those things, life is really difficult. So I wanted to take a quick step back before we got into my little discussion with you guys about the Ketovore diet and my pivot off of that. So I have been listening to some really wonderful podcasts from some beautiful and strong women lately, and I realized that although in season 1 I shared with you guys a lot about my past, I haven't shared with you a whole lot about who I really am and what I am doing. So again, my name is Christina. I'm 39. I have 2 beautiful stepdaughters. They are adults, and so I have a beautiful grandchild. And I also have 2 biological daughters and a son. And my son and my grandson are 2 weeks apart. So super, super cool. My stepdaughter and I were pregnant at the same time. So that was a very amazing experience. And raising these boys together is really, really positive and wonderful. So I homeschool my girls, and I will homeschool my son as well when he gets there. We live in Oklahoma now, but I'm originally from New York. I went to law school, and I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life with a few little intercessions here and there. I've definitely been through it. There are not many things I didn't either make bad choices of or go through really devastating situations in my younger years, and I'm very happy of where I am today. I've learned so much to remove so much chaos and drama and really negative situations out of my life. So this new chapter that I'm in my life right now is definitely about learning and expanding my mind. And I feel that I have found my purpose and my passion in life. And that is ever expanding and evolving, what that means for me. But I'm very hopeful that in sharing some of that with you, that you find also your purpose and your passions in life. So, one other thing is I have lots of pets. I love animals, so I have pet cows. They are amazing. It was completely unplanned for, but a little orphan calf came to us and needed a home, and he needed a bottle feeding every single morning and night, and that expanded into a whole crew of cows, and we just love them so much. They all have very particular names, and we've got horses and a kitty cat that showed up as a tiny baby kitten, and a beautiful dog, and even chinchillas. So we've got some really interesting, fun things going around my place for all of these children. So it's a wonderful learning experience every single day for all of us. Last week I had talked to you, or actually the week before last, I had talked to you guys about the book, My Spiritual Backpack by Nancy Rose. And a very dear friend of mine had sent me that book, and I just absolutely loved it so much that I had really gotten into ordering some other books. And I told you guys I would kind of let you know what some of those books were as I went along. So one of the books is called Good Vibes, Good Life by Vex King. Super amazing book. Best-selling book. I'm sure you've probably heard of it. If you haven't, check out his Instagram page. Really inspirational. I love just even looking at his page, but I knew I had to dive a little deeper into getting his book. So he talks in depth about some of the struggles and trials that he had in his early years, and how those brought him to where he is today, where he is able to teach so many people and inspire many people from what he went through, and encourage people to get through their struggles in life. And he talks about meditation, and I think it's really interesting. He talks about how meditation really helped him be able to breathe and decompress and get through some really difficult anger issues, so he is better able and better equipped to handle conflict today, where in the past he had difficulty communicating in those hard types of conflict situations where, people didn't agree with him, or he didn't particularly like someone. And he's been able to shift his focus and be able to turn those situations into positive places. And it really made me realize that meditation for each one of us is something unique. It's not just the typical, sitting cross-legged and humming and trying to clear your brain of everything. I think that if that works for you, that's great. But I think for each person, what meditation is different. And the breathing, that's a major deal. That is probably for everyone. For me, meditation, I often find is in the gym, when I'm not worried about doing the laundry, taking care of the kids, making the next meal, or directing what's going on around the house. In the gym, I can focus solely on my breathing, the rhythm of the exercise that I am doing, and the tempo of the music that I'm listening to. And that's what works really well for me. Everything else is just completely phased out. Even though there are many people around me, I feel very at one with myself and completely in the moment, and just really feeling my breath more than anything. And there's a certain level of euphoria that comes out of that. And I know I always feel so much better when I can get into that state. And it's not always possible, because somebody can be calling me and so on and so forth in the gym, or wanting to talk. So you've got to find where you can fit meditation into your life, if that's something that you're interested in. I used to think that I had to have this fabulous paradise on some vacation before I could ever meditate. And the reality is that doesn't happen very often, especially with children and busy life, busy work. Finding the perfect time and moment to fit something so important into your life is very difficult. So if you're a busy mom and you're sitting in car line that can be a great time to meditate, to put down the phone and to focus on your breath and decompressing and letting yourself have just a minute. And you can find wherever that works for you. Sometimes you just got to go outside and step away from everybody. Look, the world is not going to end because you take 5 minutes to yourself. So the podcast before last, I had touched on vibrational energy and how I had just kind of begun to learn a little bit about that. And I definitely want to know so much more. And Vex King in this Good Vibes, Good Life book, of course, talks about having vibrational energy. And he talks about how it's important to stay away from negative thoughts and negative situations such as gossiping and dramatic situations, chaotic situations, and people that bring that sort of stuff into your life. And he also talked about how we give off vibrational energy towards other people. And for me, that was really eye-opening because so often as a mom, I can become so busy and overwhelmed that it's easy to give off negative vibrations to my children. And with my daughters, especially for me, it's important to give off positive vibes towards them. And I never really thought about how we actually have energy that we give off in the way that we talk and act and look at each other, our body language. And it's definitely made me take a step back and think about how I interact with my children in those moments where I've got a lot on my plate and I'm trying to do more than I can possibly do, and to just tone it way down and focus on the moment and focus on having a positive outflow of energy towards my daughters and my son as well, and everybody in my life, because realizing that I'm impacting them, not just like, oh, I kind of hurt their feelings or something, but like literally an outflow of energy is going towards them, and that can be a positive or a negative. And as a mom, of course, we're not always perfect, but I want it to be a positive thing towards my children and my spouse and anyone that I'm in contact with. The other thing that I had been really working on is focusing on being in the moment. And that was from Nancy Rose's book, but Vex King also touches on that. And so I've been really focusing on my thought processes and being in the moment. I've really started to correct myself repeatedly about having negative thought patterns that at first glance I wouldn't have thought they were negative. But now that I've begun to learn more, my mind has begun to see that what I perceived as not negative really is negative, and it's lowering my vibrational energies, and that's just not a good thing. So it's been really eye-opening and awakening to continue to learn. I can't wait to just keep reading and learning more from so many wonderful people in the books that I'm reading. So I will continue to share with you guys what I've come across and what I've learned in these books. Again, this book this week is Good Vibes, Good Life by Vex King, Vex King. I just bought it on Amazon, and he is on Instagram just under Vex King. So I wanted to talk to you guys about Ketovore. So I wanted to clarify one thing real quickly about the carnivore diet that I had not mentioned last week. There are two schools of thought that I know of about the carnivore diet. One is a meat-only diet. It's strictly beef and salt, and that is it. It is truly an elimination diet, trying to get to the root of what is making someone not feel their best. The other school of thought is eating all kinds of meat, dairy, eggs, certain fruits that are lower on the glycemic level, and honey. And they say honey is okay because it's made by bees, so, it's made by a living creature. And the whole honey thing is a whole nother controversy. So I think that's kind of hilarious that people can get into arguments over honey. So I tend to go with the latter, with the meat, dairy, eggs, etc., because I know that those things don't upset my stomach. The carnivore diet, as an elimination diet, kind of like Whole30, they've really pared it down. I think these things tend to work for different people because, again, you're cutting out the processed foods, you're cutting out the empty carbs, and the biggest deal is you're cutting out all of the really bad sugars, the stuff that's just full of chemicals. So, if you didn't get to listen to last week's episode, I had gone on the carnivore diet after having breastfed for 2 years, and I wanted to make sure that I was really letting my hormones level out, because when you end breastfeeding, you are still in a postpartum phase of pregnancy. So that's the 4th trimester, and for me, that lasted a full 2 years. And I'm very blessed that I got to do that. I also wanted to make sure that my immune system was really strengthened, and I never cheated a single time on the carnivore diet. I did it for a full 6 months. My stomach was flat every single day. I never once had a stomach ache, ever. Not a single one. So I also had incredibly high energy levels. I never once had an acne breakout, which in my past, I had terrible acne, a cystic type of acne. Also, a big deal was everyone around me at one point came down with COVID, and I never had a single symptom. I'm sure I probably had it and was asymptomatic, but I never once got sick. So, I think that's just directly attributable to not being on a sugar-based diet. Decided to move to the Ketovore diet off the carnivore diet because the Ketovore diet is much less restrictive than the carnivore diet. The Ketovore diet is a combination of keto and the carnivore diet. So that can really mean a lot of things, and it really is based mostly on what works for you. So I wanted to share with you what Ketovore means to me. And what it means to me is not going to mean it for everybody else. But I've been able to realize how many things really affect my gut and have been giving me just terrible stomach problems my entire life. And on the Ketovore diet, I continue to not have any stomach issues at all. So it's been very wonderful to live a life without stomach cramps and all of the things I won't talk about. But if you have stomach problems or really bad headaches, I used to get migraines every day. I don't get those anymore, period. I just don't. And I don't take any kind of medication for them or anything like that. I don't take medication, period. So one thing I do want to say also about the having stomach issues is get your water tested. I have been off of fluoride water for about 6 years. I started with a Berkey water filtration system. I wasn't super impressed with that because as I tested my water, it was still not super great. And I bought a new one thinking it was just something wrong with mine. Same issue. So I went to reverse osmosis. That was okay. I ended up getting a water distiller, and that has been a game changer. So I super encourage you to get off contaminated water. If you're drinking tap water, test your water. It'll be eye-opening to you. Those water testers are about $10 on Amazon. I didn't even know they sold those a number of years ago, and now I have one in my drawer. Do I still get some fluoride in my water when I go, say, to the gym or a restaurant or something like that? Yeah, that's not going to kill me. But in the past, when I was drinking tap water every single day at home, I had no idea how sick it was making me. So if you've got stomach issues, definitely start there too. Also, brain fog, that clears it up big time. If you've got a lot of just not really being able to think clearly it can be a big part of what's going on if you're intaking a lot of contaminants. And if you haven't ever studied fluoride and the effects, don't Google it, because Google will make sure to tell you what it wants you to know. You need to get a browser that doesn't lead you to the results that it wants you to know. I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but if you don't believe me, use a alternative browser such as DuckDuckGo and search for a term or effects of fluoride on the brain, and then search for the same thing under Google, and you're going to get two very different results. It's shocking. It's a little bit scary, honestly. So, so back to Ketovore. Sorry to take that little intercession there about all of the water, but it's so important. Okay, so here's what I no longer eat on Ketovore that I did eat on keto. I don't eat vegetables. And yes, that means I don't eat the cauliflower, everything, mashed cauliflower crust pizza. I can't even think of all the things that I used to make with cauliflower. No kale, just none of it. No almond flour. I used to be a big cooker with the almond flour, baker, I'm sorry. And the same with the coconut flour. I just avoid those. I don't eat fish very often. It's a very random thing if I ever get fish. No avocados. That's really sad to say, but through doing all of this, I found out how incredibly ill I get when I eat avocados, and I used to eat them every single day, having no idea that they were making me sick. But for other people, they are superfoods. So just be aware that you can actually be allergic to them. I no longer use olive oil. I have just strictly gone to ghee butter and butter. No chia, no flax seeds, none of those seeds. My stomach gets incredibly distended, and I am not going anywhere when I eat stuff like that. I get very, very uncomfortable and sick. Okay, so back when I was on keto, though, those were all staples of my diet every single day. On Ketovore today, here's what I do tend to eat. A lot of different types of meat, including chicken and beef liver. Those are incredibly high in minerals and vitamins, and they used to gross me out. I was like, I'm not eating that. Since I started eating them, I know exactly where they come from, so I know that they're really clean, grass-fed animals, free-range chickens. My energy levels right after I eat that type of food just skyrocket. And I never would have believed that I was missing out on something like that, because in my belief system, it was always chicken livers or something at a diner that were fried and breaded and just, put into rapeseed oil and, or canola oil, whatever you want to call it, and just a heart attack. And in fact, chicken livers can be cooked differently or beef liver, and it can be really good for you. So the dairy, I know for a lot of people, that's a big no-no. They've got really bad allergies to it. In the past, I thought I did too. So for me, what it wasn't the dairy, it was the sugar. And if you have never looked at the sugar content on any kind of carton of dairy, please open your eyes and do it. If you think that Yoplait is really an awesome snack, no, it's not. It's 19 grams of sugar for one little tiny container. You're supposed to not even get that much in a day. I know the standard American diet is 25 grams of sugar, and you're getting that in one little serving that's literally 8 bites. That's ridiculous. And there's very little, there's no fat in it at all. So your blood sugar is going to skyrocket. On the milk, the lower the fat percentage, the higher the sugar. So when people are like, I'll just get the skim milk and their latte, well, they're really just injecting sugar straight into their body, because that skim milk is so full of sugar. But so is the 4%. And I remember my pediatrician, back when we used to go to doctors all the time with my first daughter, she just acted like my daughter would die if she didn't drink a bottle of milk every single morning. And so I was just forcing this stuff down my daughter's throat. And luckily, my daughter became allergic to it. And I stopped and looked at the bottle of milk one day, and I was like, 12 grams of sugar for 8 ounces? Are you kidding me? And I didn't even know at that point how bad sugar could be. So there went that. And my second daughter and my son, they won't even drink milk. They will just have unsweetened almond milk. And that leads me to the next deal is unsweetened almond milk. That's what I use. If I go out somewhere to get a latte, that's what I'm going to have them put in it. And at home, that's what I use if I make a shake. I eat a lot of other things like eggs, lots of berries. I love berries. I do love like peaches, nectarines. I think they're just so good for you, so full of antioxidants. You know, the blackberries, the raspberries, the cherries, the blueberries. I mean, the color is just intense and beautiful. I just planted blueberry and raspberry bushes the other day, so I'm very excited about that. I love tomatoes too. Absolutely love them. And I heard the other day that, you know, there can be really difficult for some people to digest. For me, I don't have a problem with it. What I do make sure though is when I buy tomato sauce that I go and get the no sugar added one at Natural Grocers. I think they sell it at Sprouts too. Walmart just began carrying one. It's not organic, but it's definitely better than any of the other ones. Your ketchup, also, they've got those now too, where one serving of ketchup is like, I think 14 to 19 grams of sugar for 2 tablespoons, just regular ketchup. And the no sugar added one is, I think, 1 gram. So, you know, if your kids really like ketchup, just transition over to it, especially the main store brand is generally about the same price. If you want the organic one, it is definitely about 3 or 4 times the cost. So I've found what works for me currently on this diet, and I probably will continue to add things back in as I feel that my gut has healed and I feel like it's okay to try new things. I tried my all-time favorite sweet potato twice since I've gone on Ketovore, and both times it was not a good experience. It sure tasted amazing, and I was really sad about it. Now, do I eat sugar? Yeah, I'm human. I have family get-togethers once a week. I always make a dessert for my family, and I'm not going to lie, I'll definitely have a piece of it if I am so inclined. Not every time. I am not one of those parents that's like, oh, you're not getting dyes, you're not getting sugar. I try to restrict my children. I try to teach my children that if you eat this, you're probably going to get a stomach ache, or it could lead to worse health. And my hope in doing that is that I'm equipping them with the tools to guide themselves in their life to make good decisions. Whereas I feel like if you are constantly like, no, you can't even just have one little bite because we're at a birthday party, and you separate that child out and make them feel alienated, they're going to be very resentful. And when they are out of your care, maybe they're with grandma or a friend's house, or when they go to college, they go crazy and go overboard because they were never taught any kind of, let's just have a little bit because we know we can have a few bites and we're okay, and we're going to go play really, really hard, and the rest of the week we're going to eat super duper healthy, because 98% of the time we eat very, very healthy. I make almost every single one of our meals. We rarely go out to eat. And we're really careful to get organic and non-GMO products. So that's kind of my point of view as a mom, is not to make my children feel like they are somehow being held prisoner by me from having fun. I want them to experience everything, the good and the bad. And my children can tell you all about the keto diet. They can tell you about carnivore. They can tell you about their experience when they were vegans and vegetarians. And I mean, there's nothing they won't tell you about. They have experienced all of this with me. And I think it's really awesome that they will get to make decisions in their adult lives and have that memory of how these things affected them so that they are able to say, well, this isn't working for me. Let me find something else that is working for me. And they won't be afraid to try new things that could boost their health and wellness. So here is where I'm at currently. I have added some gluten-free, wheat-free bread. I think it's made with like rice flour, maybe some tapioca in it to my diet. And I started taking creatine again. And I've made sure to get a really good clean creatine that doesn't affect my stomach. In the past, I could never take creatine, but I found one that has given me absolutely no issue. I've also added some protein powders so I can have my protein coffee that are super duper clean. Like literally they are just protein and nothing else. I do also enjoy occasionally one of these really yummy protein shakes. I've got a couple of different ones in the cabinet as a treat, but they're still low sugar to no sugar. And some of the protein bars that are low sugar to no sugar, they unfortunately do still have some of those chemicals in them. So it's definitely something that I'm very careful to not incorporate into my everyday daily eating habits. So where that has led me in the gym to pivoting off of Ketovore a little bit, so I'm definitely not in ketosis by any means. It has definitely increased my strength and my muscle mass drastically. I've noticed that my strength has increased about twofold. I can do so much more than I could just a couple of weeks ago. That's really exciting, but not everybody is trying to gain muscle mass and strength. If you're trying to lose weight, then you probably would rather be in a state of being in ketosis or, not taking creatine and protein and adding in things like, rice bread. But you just got to find what works for you. And that's always my message is if being on the paleo diet is what makes you feel good and your system is running and you are feeling energetic and you're just really focused on life, then that's working for you. If that's being a vegetarian, a vegan, or none of the above, whatever you find that works for you, do it. And I always say, don't be like me and think that you've got to stick with a diet because somebody else said it worked for them and it's like this miracle worker. Do what works for you and don't waste time on things that are not meant for your body. I do believe that we are all created differently, not just how we look and not just the things that we are good at and the things that we believe. I think that our internal structures are a little bit different. And so, we have allergies and things that we're more sensitive to. My husband and I are totally like this. Some of the things that he is incredibly allergic to, I could eat all day and they would never affect me. He is one of those people that if he literally gets like a taste of sugar, he has to go lay down for the rest of the day. He's that sensitive in his system to sugar. And that's part of the reason why sugar is such a big hot topic always in our lives is because of his sensitivity to it. And I told him yesterday, I used to really resent him for that. And now I feel like it's a blessing because if he didn't have that, I would almost say it's an allergy. We would not be so careful in how we eat. But because he has a broad spectrum of allergies, we have had to work through numerous diets. We haven't just done this because I've had stomach issues. And in the end result, we found that what has worked for me is very similar to what works for him. And so that's lucky for us because we only have one kitchen. So guys, I hope that you've found some of this information interesting. I would love it if you gave me some feedback on my Instagram page, Mente de Madre Leona. Guys, I can't wait to talk to you again next week. And until then, just remember you have a lioness in your heart, your mind, and your soul, and use that strength to pursue your passions. You can tackle so many boundaries when you use that strength to push through those times where you don't feel like you have any strength at all. Just remember that deep within you is the strength that you need for everything that you want to accomplish. Guys, lots of love. Talk to you soon.